In 88 BC, when Sulla's army reached the walls of Rome, they arrived at the invisible boundary that no one had dared to cross for centuries, the Pomerium. A deep silence and hesitation fell over the soldiers. Facing them was not an enemy fortress, but their own temples, their own homes. But Sulla rode to the front. There was no fear or doubt in his eyes. He gave the order that decided Rome's future: light the torches. If the laws stopped him, he would burn the laws. That day, the sound of iron boots on marble was the death knell of the Republic. As Sulla's legions entered the Esquiline Gate, for the first time in history, an army occupied its own city. Marius was caught unprepared. The old wolf who saved Rome 7 times was now staring down the barrel of the very war machine he invented. He tried to resist in the streets with a few hundred gladiators and armed slaves, but it was futile. Sulla was ruthless. He set fire to resisting neighborhoods. As smoke settled over the Forum, Marius, once the nightmare of barbarians, fled like a fugitive through the back alleys and sewers into exile. When Sulla entered the Forum, there was only one truth left: power belongs to the one holding the sword. Marius managed to escape Rome, but he didn't get far. Weak, old, and alone, he hid in the marshes of Minturnae in the south, burying himself in reeds and mud. Yesterday, he was the most powerful man in Rome. Today, a fugitive neck-deep in filth. When the locals caught him, Sulla's order was clear: Marius must die. But no Roman soldier could bring himself to raise a sword against the man who had saved Rome 7 times. To do the dirty work, they sent a massive Cimbrian slave, a barbarian executioner, into his cell. When the executioner entered the darkness with his blade, he saw a terrifying glint in Marius's eyes. The old wolf roared from the shadows. "Fellow, darest thou kill Gaius Marius?" In that moment, the barbarian's courage shattered. He dropped the sword and fled, screaming, "I cannot kill Marius." This event shook the people so deeply that they released him. As Marius sailed toward Africa, toward the ruins of Carthage, he learned one thing: even death feared him, and he had only one reason to stay alive: revenge. When Marius landed on the shores of Africa, he was no longer a general, but a living ghost. The man who had brought African kings in chains to Rome, who had forced German hordes to their knees, was now a refugee among the ashes of Carthage. When the governor ordered him to leave, Marius gave the messenger a reply that echoed through history. "Go and tell your governor that you have seen Gaius Marius sitting amidst the ruins of Carthage." In that moment, 2 wrecks stared at each other: a destroyed city and a destroyed man. Both once magnificent, both now abandoned to fate. Meanwhile, in Rome, Sulla made a fatal mistake. Thinking the job was done, he left for the east in pursuit of glory. He entrusted Rome to consuls he thought would keep their oaths. But the moment Sulla's ships vanished over the horizon, his ally Cinna rebelled and recalled Marius. Marius did not hesitate. He returned to Italy, but not with disciplined legions. He broke open the farm prisons, freed the chained slaves, and formed a personal army of angry criminals he called the Bardii. He refused to cut his hair or beard. He had sworn that no razor would touch his face until he had his revenge. The student had left, and now the master was coming for blood. When Marius and Cinna besieged Rome, the city could not withstand the hunger and opened its gates. But the army that entered was not the orderly legions Rome was used to. Marius walked the streets flanked by his bloodthirsty slave gang. He wore not general's armor, but the rags of his exile. This old man, with matted hair and beard, radiated pure terror. And that day, one of the most horrifying rules in Roman history was established. Marius did not need to give verbal orders. He simply walked with heavy steps. If a noble, a senator, or an old friend approached him trembling and offered a greeting, and if Marius did not return the nod, if he simply stared in silence, It was a death sentence. The person Marius ignored was hacked to pieces on the spot by his slaves. The streets turned into a slaughterhouse. The forum was filled with the bodies of Sulla's supporters. The severed head of Consul Octavius was nailed to the rostra, the podium where he once spoke to the people. Marius was taking his revenge on the elite who had looked down on him for years, without saying a single word. In January of 86 BC, Gaius Marius achieved what no one else in Roman history had. He was elected consul for the 7th time. But the taste of victory was like ash in his mouth. The 71-year-old old wolf was no longer drunk on glory, but a prisoner of fear. He could not sleep at night. In the howling wind, he heard the footsteps of Sulla's army. He knew Sulla would return, and he knew what he would do. To drown this fear, he surrendered to wine and madness. Fate granted him only 17 days. On the 17th day of his 7th consulship, not on a battlefield but in his bed, consumed by high fever and nightmares, he took his last breath. The man who saved Rome, reformed the army, and destroyed the Republic was dead. But the chaos he left behind was not over. As soon as Marius died, his partner Cinna pulled the plug on the uncontrolled slave army, the Bardiae. These monsters they created no longer listened even to their masters. Cinna surrounded them one night while they slept in their barracks and slaughtered them all with spears. The bloody days of Marius's legacy were washed away with more blood. Now, a strange silence fell over Rome. Marius was dead. Cinna ruled alone. But reports from the east screamed that this silence was merely the calm before the storm. Sulla had made peace with Mithridates. He had turned his ships west, and he was coming. Marius was dead, but Lucius Cornelius Cinna remained the absolute master of Rome. Yet, as the footsteps of Sulla approached from the east, Cinna was seized not by fear, but by a frantic courage. Instead of accepting war in Italy, he decided to cross the Adriatic and meet Sulla in Greece. This would be his death warrant. The year was 84 BC. The place, the port of Ancona. The weather was freezing, the sea violent. Cinna forced his soldiers who did not want to leave Italy, who feared the storm, and who hesitated to fight their Roman brothers, to board the ships. Discontent started as a whisper, then turned into a scream. When a soldier refused an order and blocked his path, Cinna raised his hand to strike him. That was the final straw. In that instant, the discipline of the Roman army vanished, replaced by a lynching mob. His own soldiers surrounded their commander. Cinna fell to his knees, trying to escape. The consul, once the most powerful man in Rome, died on the cold stones of Ancona, hacked down by the swords of his own legionaries. With Cinna's death, the Marians were headless. The army scattered, the state paralyzed. Just then, Sulla's ships appeared on the horizon. Fate had woven its web. There was no one left to defend Rome.